I'm going to sit down for this. So this morning's revelation about how reality works. Hydrogen atom. The binding energy of a hydrogen atom is created by the main vortex of the universal rotation about the center of the universe. So Earth is the center, a massive universe measured by the cosmic microwave background of sphere. Center, dot point, an axis point, an actual point, dot point about which the axis turns is created. And that surface is a disk, because that disk provides buoyancy on the surface for the actual cosmic microwave background, the universe itself, to stand. So it creates its own center, its own buoyancy within its medium, within the medium within which the cosmic microwave background floats. It creates a surface, and that surface is created at its center. And so it can be anywhere within its own medium. So the model you need is just simply bubbles within bubbles. And take the cosmic microwave background, our universe, our observable cosmos. And there's the stars, okay? And that's the outside of the sphere. That's enough. That's a bubble, and that's in a medium. Now that medium in which it floats has a surface. Let's assume it must have a surface. Every medium must have a boundary for it to exist. So let's assume it has a surface, but that bubble doesn't exist at the surface. It's in the medium, and it can move up and down within the medium. It has a specific gravity, a density that's controllable. How? Because it's got a center surface. It recreates the energy of the surface of the medium inside which the cosmic microwave background, the universe, exists, is recreated at the center, creates a surface, a disk. So a flat surface is created inside the universe at the center of the planet. And so that 2D disk is a yin-yang. And so you're going to build a model from the pattern of a anti-clockwise rotating twin babies, black and white, the two dots. That's the model. Because when you turn that to the side and you see the hooks of a twin standing vortex, one inside the other, but there is a dimensional cross only at the cavitation enters the water into the cavitation zone above. So water below, air above, let's just call it air above. The water enters the air dimension, and therefore the air enters the water dimension through the tail. But when the water gets to try to get into the air dimension, which is now below it, it can't go there, it's upside down. Because there's air below the water. So there's a dimensional bound at Thoth's beak where it hits that disk. So the disk spins out instead, creating a disk of a yin-yang. And so the main two-dimensional yin-yang, the simplest one, is created there at the center of Thoth's beak. And that doesn't spin at the center. It's imbalanced because there's a gravitational pull towards the center of the vortex. You know, the tip of the beak is going to be pulled towards the vortex. And that's going to have an equal force at where the wave comes out of the center. So it doesn't come out at 30. It comes out at 32. And so if you split into 6 pieces as Lewe, but now we'll just label them as pulses and call them 60 hertz. And so we've got a base 60 hertz pulses. At pulse 16, at pulse 15, where the center of the vortex should be, it's not, it's 16, because the Thoth's beak is bending back towards the center. And then at the center, it's not 30, it's 32, because it's doubled. Because there's two motions, one relative to the other at the center of the major vortex, so it's 32. And so now you get a disk area created underneath Thoth's beak. Yeah, can you see a bubble? So you have a disk below and a bubble above, and finally you have an imbalance in the whole system because you've recreated the surface at the surface inside which the cosmic microwave background, the universe, exists, has been recreated there. You have water below and air above. That's stability. And so provided that little tiny bubble can be kept inflated, the whole system is recursive and it lasts forever. And so it's kept because there's a temperature increase. The work that's done through the stretching of the elastic material as it comes over the top, so the back of Thoth's head is going to be fragmented, and it's going to be split in between water and color. So the liquid with a gap between will just be the color. The final thing that will break will be color, and the final break in the color is between yellow and green, the energy split. But that doesn't happen because there's oil. A film is created of oil. To keep the dimensional break going there. So over the top of the back of Thoth's head, you can't break the dimensional bound there, and you're stretching And so oil is created, so that when the water it enters the center, it's carrying oil, and that oil burns. And so you've got heat, you've got fuel, you've got steam, you've got lubricant, you've got water. Yeah? Entering this system, you have a temperature increase inside the bubble, and that temperature increase is measured by the cosmic microwave background pulse increase temperature, those 10 points. It only has to be tiny, and that's enough, sufficient, recursive, because this bubble's tiny at the center of the planet. Now from that place, that bubble is now going to want to expand. So that little system, that little energy system we've built of just pure energy, is now going to actually act in the matter. Because it goes so fast at c, the circumference rotates at c, variable to viscosity between turbulence and laminar flow created by precessional axis whip, creating a turbulent state each rotation, and that turbulence is the higher energy state. So that higher energy state must dissipate as a wave break, and it does it orthogonally at the center with a twist of J and K. And so you have J, you've created an elastic energy, a joule has been created, an elastic twist strength energy is created, and K is of temperature. And so you twist the temperature higher instead of lower. And that's measured in our pulse as well, because that now creates a pulse at the center of the planet. Each rotation, that time particle is pulsing, I've called it, is pulsing at h seconds. So it's one rotation and h real seconds, and that pulse reaches the surface, same, and so the surface expands at the same pulse and then contracts back. And it contracts back because the atmosphere resists, the surface tension of the planet resists the expansion, because the surface tension is created by the universe, but its value is created by the response of the creatures that live within the zone. Because as the planet expands, assume now that the outside of the atmosphere is a rigid body, because it's got the universe pressing against it, and so it pushes back. And it pushes back because the ether, the atmosphere is created from the ether. And the ether is made from glass dust particles. Glass dust, random aggregate chips of glass at a dimension so small that they can't get any smaller. Because if you have one chip and you split it into two, the surface area has increased exponentially relative to the volume increase. You've got more surface than volume. Same volume, but more surface. And that surface has to fit into a space. And eventually you get down to a size it can't get any smaller, so glass dust. And then within that glass dust, as the planet, so you've got a rigid body outside, ether made of glass dust, and a planet pulsing, compressing the atmosphere. What it does is the ether gets compressed, and you get negative tension created between the random aggregate chips. And there is a flash of light, because as they are compressed, the glass chips are compressed, they push back into each other, but they can't compress into each other. They're solid particles. So what happens is that the negative tension zone that's created, the speed of the motion itself, creates a response, and that's negative tension. So it has a compressive strength whilst in motion. It pushes back instantly. And so the planet returns back to where it was in diameter before that expansion moment took place. But there has been mass energy has been added at the center by this steam oil injector engine in the time particle, bringing in surface outside energy into the center. And so that's our experience of life. So now you can see that the atmosphere itself is pulsing with light. And so that's why it's two hemispheres. So always hemispheres. One sphere has another hemisphere. So the atmosphere of the black and white babies is now translated from 2 dimensions into 3 as our atmosphere going round. Yeah. Rotating, because it needs to keep changing. If everything changes each moment, so when a moment starts and it returns back to where it was, it hasn't returned back to where it was because stuff has happened in between the motion of where it was, accelerating, expanding fast. Oh, it's little gravity, so it expands from nothing to 9.81 meters per second squared. So the experience of gravity is the planet pushing you back, bouncing you like that, pushing you back. So you bounce on a surface. That experience is translated into you now. So this compressive force that is a flash of light is translated into you through your skin. which is why we have the hairs on our skins, to increase our surface area of our skin is increased. That compressive force of the ether is experienced in our bodies, and it's translated down now through viscous layers, through a complexity of biology, into our heartbeats and to the Z discs of the action potential. And so now you look at a Z disc in the heart, human heart, and you'll see the pump of the heart is actually these Z discs and membrane potential. So you'll see them replicating the two-dimensional disc of the tau at the center underneath Thoth's beak, and that the Z disc wants to pump to a sphere, but it can't. There's insufficient energy because energy is being wasted. Because Planck's constant should be 2 pi natural and c should be 2 pi elastic, the velocity of c itself is its viscosity, and so it needs to keep stretching. It's pi elastic. Archimedean pi should be the speed of light measured. Lots of problems there, but measure speed of light. And so we'd have the correct balance, and so our membrane potential of our Z discs of our heartbeat would increase, and they would be spheres. The Z disc will exist as spheres, and so then they're just holding the tension. So at the moment they're trying to pump to spheres, and they can't because we're wasting energy. If we behave properly and act as love and listen to the instructions of God through Christ as the Messiah, Christ is King, just love your neighbor, love your God, love yourself as a recursive system, we will get round spherical Z discs in our heart. They'll come round, and what that will do is it will create our red blood cells will no longer be iron discoids. They'll be spherical, made of gold. A golden membrane is what is created. Go back to Thoth's beak, and this is where the creation of geometry creates metals. That this stretching of the back of Thoth's head is creating different geometries, and that's so finely balanced. Look at it. It's a pocket vortex created from a major vortex, a universal rotation that's balanced simply by the behavior of the water in that vortex. The behavior of water must be perfect, and we are made from water, so we have to choose. The final act of the recursive system, fractal break of the wave, must be a moment of choice, and that's for your job, motherfuckers. Choose positive, and we'll restore it. Now I've got that's an experiment. I'm saying so. I've built a model with a prediction that I believe everything will get better immediately if you just love each other. Fantastic message, isn't it? And here's the engineering to prove it, and to prove that science is lying. So it's all been a lie. Wake up, you're back in the room. And here's the model, here's the truth, here's the future. The firmament is created by the time particle. So the center of the planet, there's the firmament, a flat disk with a firmament above it. Here on the outside of the planet lies the three-dimensional cavitation around that. And that's the world we're looking at now. But the future won't look like that. Because we live inside the center of a expanding gobstopper of spheres, and that currently Saturn is the center of the universe. So Saturn is constructed thus, with this huge disk, because it's the platform upon which the cosmic microwave background of the cosmos is currently resting. And so Saturn rests on us. Saturn corrupts us at the center, and so it makes itself the platform. So the entities that exist on the Saturn's dimension can make us behave badly. They all become the center. They are the center. They get everything. They get heaven lives there. God's world is up there. We bring it here by changing our behavior, and we become the center. And I believe this is possible, my friends. That the spherical planet is currently spherical because it's collapsed from a surface, and it should be a flat disk, and that we should then replicate the time particle at the center. So the cavitation at the center, which does exist, we replicate it through our behavior, and the planet will break into a flat disk, as it has done in the past. Where the dinosaurs lived here, the planet was spinning really fast as a disk, too fast, so the meteorite struck it to slow it down. This one's coming to speed us up. Ready? And so I think that the planet, like a poppy seed, will flower from there to there, with a firmament above us, replicating the time particle. It's just an experiment, just an idea. Now that's just conjecture. Everything else before that is referencing Dr. Viktor Lewe, 1906 and 1915. And I'm really ready to do this, my friends. Please help me. follow the Rebel King.